Welcome back, guys. Today we're gonna do a project snapshot and we're gonna talk about Project My House. That's right, my own personal home. We purchased this house during the pandemic because we're idiots, and we decided we were gonna move on the same street we already lived. We're gonna tell you guys a little bit about the process and the construction and some of the challenges, and then show you the product, the finished result. Looks pretty great, if I don't say so myself. We were not looking for a house. We were living in a house that we really loved. We love our neighborhood, and we didn't plan to move, but I gotta be honest with you, my now 4-year-old was sleeping in what could be called a glorified closet. So we knew that at some point we'd have to move, and we saw this house come up for sale and it was on our street. So we went to see it on a Tuesday. We bought it on a Wednesday, because we are people of action. Fools, some might say. After we bought the house, we knew we needed to renovate it. It was in really rough condition. There was a lot of problems with it. I mean, not things I would consider problems, things other people would consider problems. The finishes were horrible. It had not been very well maintained. It had been split up into apartments, but originally it was a single family home, and obviously we want to turn it back into a single family home. So we knew it needed some love. It needed some guidance. It needed some care. And we thought we were the right people to do it. So we purchased the house the next day and then jumped right into a renovation. Luckily, I know a thing or two about renovating. On the main floor, you used to enter the house into a small vestibule that was teeny tiny, and then through the vestibule past another door into a long, narrow hallway. The long, narrow hallway had this crazy tight pinch point that made a really, really narrow opening. It was about 24 inches wide, which is insane. And the reason it was like that was because it had been turned into apartments, so the stairwell had been added and it extended to create a door at the bottom of the stairs. So we knew immediately we wanted to open that all up. We also wanted to open up the wall between the dining room and the stairs. But that said, we didn't want to open up the whole main floor. I do like a room. So we wanted to keep a separate foyer and a separate living room. So in the foyer, what we did was remove the teeny tiny vestibule and add a new wall so that you walk into a longer foyer that we could have some storage and tile that entire space. Once the paneling was painted and everything was in, I felt like it seemed too dark. So I repainted the paneling in the lighter trim color of the rest of the house, and I love it so much. I'm so glad we made that change. You know, I think the lesson is paint is just paint. It's not hard to repaint something. Do I want to do it in a perfect world? Absolutely not. But sometimes is it worth doing it to make it perfect? Absolutely. I wanted to maintain a foyer. I think it's really nice to have a sense of entry in a home. I like coming into a smaller space and then the open concept unveils itself to you. I like there's like drama there. Honestly, when that stairwell came down that eliminated the pinch point, it was like, ah, the light came through and it just made all the difference. And I was like, I know why we bought this house. As I stood looking at the stairwell, something had always bothered me. There was like a narrow opening where the door was. And then it came to me. What if I paneled the entire wall and turned it into a hidden jib door to the basement? I immediately texted my real estate agent / friend and was like, hey, should I do this? And her response was yes, which reinforced my decision. Then I immediately drew up 18 different versions of how the paneling detail could work, which is always helpful. And I went with the first one I drew, always. It made that whole wall go from nothing into like a really spectacular design element. It looks like maybe it was original to the house, and that was something that I didn't come up with until we were standing in the space and construction was already halfway through. Contractors loved that I added that. Shout out to Jake, thank you for accommodating me. But it really made a huge difference, and I was thrilled with how it turned out. The living room stayed as is. We didn't change any of that opening. That's all existing. And I tried like 9 million ways to make the mantle on the first floor work because it was original. But at the end of the day, it wasn't working for a variety of reasons. The sizing didn't work with the inserts, and then I had to deal with the surround. And it was kind of becoming this like cobbled together version of nothing that I got to a point where I was like, I'm spending so much money and effort trying to make this mantle work that I don't particularly love because I feel like I need to. So then I reached out to one of our amazing suppliers who does these beautiful limestone mantles and was like, is this an option? And he was like, 100%. And it ended up being the best decision we made. I'm so happy with that choice, and I love the look of the fireplace. We've had so many people ask us if it was original because it looks like it could be original even though it's not. What I love about the living room is it's a really cozy space. We love like hanging out in there in the evening, especially in the winter with the fire on, and it's really become like a great hangout space for everybody. And in the end, we sold the original mantle to someone else in the neighborhood who put it in their home. Part of me was disappointed we didn't get to use it, but I'm really glad with the solution that we came up with. And I think sometimes like you can't force a square peg into a round hole. And that's kind of what I was doing. I was trying to make it work because I wanted it to work, but it wasn't working for a variety of other reasons. There were original pocket doors between the dining room and the living room, which we really loved. So we kept those, we painted them and added some new hardware, but they're an original feature that we really wanted to maintain. It was important to us. The dining room became like more of an open concept space connected to the kitchen through a big opening, but not totally separate. The kitchen was in this teeny tiny room at the back, which is an addition, which is now our mud room and powder room. And that used to be the full kitchen and a full bathroom. It was an unusual layout because it was an apartment. So in the apartment, there was like a living room and a dining room and then a teeny tiny kitchen and toilet. It's also gross because from the kitchen sink, you could see the toilet. I don't think there's a scenario where that ever works or is hygienic. I was immediately drawn to this Farrow & Ball Triron color. It's like a khaki olivey green, and green is a neutral, as everyone at this point should know. I really wanted to play on that, and I wanted to find a beautiful marble countertop, and I fell in love with this one called Calicotta Sponda because I liked the soft veining and the really warm tones. Because marble is so expensive and also it's not the most durable, we kind of ended up doing a 2-counter variation where we used a Caesar stone on the perimeter and then a marble on the back slab and the island. I really love how it turned out. I think it adds another layer of detail. It's not something you notice right away, but it just adds another element of layering, and I think it was a really successful strategy. But I should say, when my kids or my husband is cooking, I really make them focus on the Caesar stone areas because they're indestructible. Guys, there is no banquette. But I gotta tell you this, my renovation coffers are dry, but there is going to be a banquette. My plan is to build a freestanding furniture piece that'll fit in the bay window, and then that round table will get pushed back into it, and there will be a banquette. But yes, there's going to be a banquette, there just isn't right now. I struggled a lot with the layout of the kitchen because this is gonna sound crazy. I'm not the biggest fan of an island. I think an island works sometimes, but I don't love, especially a sink in an island. I prefer an island where there's nothing around it. But I drew up like 30 different versions of this kitchen, and at the end of the day, the island worked the best in this space. You really need to design the kitchen based on the space that you have and the lifestyle that you have, and not just based on, you know, I want an island or I really want a peninsula. And I've now lived there for over a year. Guys, it's great. I don't have a problem with the island at all. I mean, my biggest thing I don't like about the island is that the children chase each other around it, but there's nothing I can do about that. One thing that came up when we were in construction was we sold our house that we were already living in. And when we sold the house, our budget shifted a little bit accordingly, and we ended up being able to address the mudroom and the water closet at the back of the house in this first round of renovations. The original layout with the kitchen had a window on the sidewall. So when we were looking at designing the mudroom, if we were to leave that window there, it limited the amount of storage that we could have on that wall, and we had to choose storage or natural light. But then option C came in, skylight. And then we could close up that window on the sidewall and make that all storage. So that we ended up with a full height closet with a drawer in the bottom, a big bench with hooks above and a shelf, and then another full height cabinet that actually has like a command center charging station in it. So we got all of the things by removing that window. We did want to create like a moody vibe, but we do have a skylight, which makes it quite bright. And I think that the contrast of that dark grass cloth type wallpaper and the darker millwork makes it feel cozy, but then we also have a door with full glazing and a big skylight. So although it is dark on the walls, it actually is quite bright in there all the time. It is obviously never dark except at night. In the powder room, we added beadboard wainscoting, and then we also added wallpaper above. Love wallpaper, guys, shout out to wallpaper. How many kinds of wallpaper are there on my main floor? 3, that's correct. There's 3 different wallpapers on the main floor of my house, and it's not very big. Wallpaper is working so hard for you. It's giving you incredible pattern, interest. I really love wallpaper, especially in powder room. It feels really special and different. A main floor powder room is real estate gold and also very convenient for pottery training. Shout out to my 3-year-old. In terms of the design process, guys, I'm gonna be honest with you, designing for yourself is so much harder than working with a client. I'm exposed to so many different ideas that sometimes it can be challenging to narrow down those ideas into a cohesive home. The thing that we really like about our house is there's no wasted space on the main floor. We have one dining table, and that's where we eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And you know, we live in downtown Toronto. Our house is not enormous, and it doesn't bother me that I don't have a separate breakfast and formal dining room. I like that we're using all the space every single day, and it doesn't feel like wasted space. Whenever you move into a new house, for a while it kind of seems foreign and it doesn't feel like your house and you're kind of getting used to the quirks of the house. I think there are 2 moments when it starts to feel like your own house. When someone damages something for the first time, you know, the scuff on the wall from like your kid carrying a toy up the stairs, or that like mark on the floor from when, you know, you dropped a glass when you're having a fun party. All of those things kind of make the house feel more like your own, and I think that like imperfections are beautiful, and I want to have a home that's to be lived in and destroyed in a positive way, if that makes sense. And the other big turning point for me is always when the art goes up. When we first move in, it's really just about making everything functional and usable. I always find it takes me a good 6 months to like get all the art up. And when those things start to go up on the wall, they just bring me such joy, and it really just feels like my house. We're really glad that we made the move. In the end, we think it was a really good call. It was a stressful few months, I won't lie to you. Tears were shed, but we made it, and now it's so great. And much like giving birth, after you go through a renovation, you kind of forget it. I don't think there's a hormone like giving birth, but it's kind of the same thing. Just saying. Thanks so much for watching, guys. That was Project Snapshot, Olivia's house. That was all about my house and our renovation. If you want more info about it, there was an awesome article on House and Home about it, and we also have a House and Home video about the project as well. If you want any more information about it, ask some questions below. We might do another video about the other floors, so if you guys have any questions about my house or about your own houses you want us to answer, hit us up below. Like, subscribe, hit the notification button, and let us know what kind of content you want to see. What do you want to know? I'll tell you. I have no filter.